thing. Yeah, yeah. So definitely, I think stress, anxiety, that has been prevailing theme in our society. So if people can make some little changes in how they arrange these tasks, that's going to help a lot.
Yeah, and
And
everyone's working from home. It's COVID season. It's been COVID season for 2 years. People are fatigued with all the stresses of being at home in life, and it's incredibly important to be very precise with what your stress management tactics are, right? Not everyone like feels relaxed when they listen to classical music, whatever it is. For some people, if they just put on earphones and they listen to skiing down a hill, they'll get super relaxed because that's their idea of relaxation, right? So don't think that, oh, I've got to listen to classical music or I've got to do mindfulness meditation to fix myself. No, it depends on your genes. And if you know what makes you happy, you can make your de-stressor something related to what makes you happy, right? Like some people just want to go run down a hill to feel better and deal with their stress, but that's what works for them. And so it's really important you know what works for you and you do that to manage your stress rather than trying to fit into a box of what someone else told you will manage your stress, right?
yeah, and is your genomic testing able to tell if somebody is prone to ADHD, or can it assist psychiatrists in diagnosing something like ADHD?
Yeah, so ADHD is a really interesting phenomenon because, from a genomic perspective, there's different manifestations of ADHD. There are people who they don't do well or they don't perform outstanding unless it's something they really enjoy doing. So like take myself, for example. I hated math. All through my life, I just did not like math. And I didn't do well in math through high school, except for the year before I went to college. And the only reason I did well in math that year was because if I didn't, I wouldn't get into the college that I wanted to go to. Right.
Mm.
So now the driving factor, the thing that got me super excited was getting into the college that I wanted to. And I was able to use that drive, that excitement to do well in something that I normally wasn't well. And I was diagnosed with ADHD, but it wasn't that I had ADHD. It's just that I didn't find pleasure in the things that I was studying, right? So I did really, really well in the things that I enjoyed learning about, the biochemistry and all that. I aced all those, but I didn't do well in math and I never liked it. And so that's why I didn't do well in it. So that had been classified as ADHD, but it's more about knowing where a person is more likely to excel. And if I had known earlier, I could have been like, okay, if I don't like math, why am I taking a math course, right? Like I'll go take courses that I enjoy. Now, another type of ADHD are people who they get excited about new things, but if it gets repetitive, they get bored and they want to move on. Or if they've achieved what they want to do, they get bored and they moved on, right? So they're like serial entrepreneurs, like, oh, this looks fun and exciting. Let me go try this out. And they'll do it for a few days and it's a cool little hobby, but then it becomes repetitive, boring. They're like, you know what? I'm not interested in this anymore. I'm going to go try something else. And then next week you find them, then they're skydiving. And then the week after they're bungee jumping. And the week after they're snorkeling because their brain is processing dopamine at such a fast rate that unless the activity is generating all that dopamine because it's exciting, they're going to get bored of it and they're not going to find pleasure in it, right? So they're the people who struggle with reading books because reading books is very monotonous, right? It's the same page over and over and over again. But for some people like myself, if I like the book, I'll finish it, no problem. I'll finish it like this. But if the book is boring to me, you couldn't pay me to finish the book, right? Because it's not in my interests. It hasn't generated that dopamine response. So we work with a lot of children, parents, teachers, psychiatrists to help them identify, is this truly ADHD or is this a predisposition at the genomic level that we can actually do something about without the use of Adderall or Ritalin or whatever other psychiatric drugs that are out there? We can use real world techniques to help drive these often intelligent people. And, most people with ADHD are extremely successful because they find their niche, their thing that they enjoy, and then they excel in it. And then they do super, super well. You don't have to, they aren't necessarily straight A students out of college. They might be dropouts, but they're very successful because they found their niche and they excelled in that niche, right? And that's a genetic predisposition that we can very quickly identify. We do a lot of career counseling for children this way. We're like, your son, he's not cut out to be a doctor, I have to say, from a genetic predisposition, right? He's too empathetic, he's too attached, and he might be influenced by the trauma of working in the emergency C-section or the emergency section of a hospital, or he's not cut out to be a soldier or cut out to be a paramedic, because he has a risk of being influenced by negative events. And when you identify that, the parents are like, holy crap, that makes so much sense, because I can't even get upset at him without him making a big deal about it, right? Like, you gotta, like, parents need to literally, like, we've done this so many times. We've got parents who come in with 2 kids. They're like, kid number 1, I can yell at him all day, no problem. Like, he's not going to take it personally. The next day, we're all going to be fine. We're going to hug it out. We're going to be okay. But this one, like, I got to be really careful with what I say to him, because, he might try to run away. He might think that everything's his fault. And so that's a genetic predisposition. And we help identify how those genetic predispositions are likely to drive their mood and behavioral